the road. Right. Our first speaker this evening is Lame Mthethwa. Lame Mthethwa is doing her leadership development project. She's currently on level 1. And she will be evaluated by Mpho Kabelo. I believe Mpho is still not on the call. Leah, are you able to take that up, if that's okay? In the interim?
Yes, I can do that. I can do that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So Lame is doing evaluation and feedback, and she's giving the second speech. So she did present her speech last week. So it's a speech on any topic, and she received feedback for that particular speech. So today we're trying to see if she has applied the feedback to the speech that she got. And that's what I'll be looking out for. Thank you, and back to you, Madam Toastmaster of the Day.
Thank you, Toastmaster Leah. Ladies and gentlemen, Lame Mthethwa with Breakfast of Champions. Breakfast of Champions, Lame Mthethwa.
Fellow Toastmasters and guests, just by show of hand, how many of us here struggle with receiving feedback, or we have ever struggled with receiving feedback? Just by show of hands, if you've ever struggled with receiving feedback or you still struggle. I see Tepo there, I see Timelo, I see Leah. I guess I haven't been the only one. For the first 2 years of my 5 years of being a Toastmasters, I struggled with receiving feedback. Every time I'd walk up to the physical or visual stage and deliver my speech and receive my evaluation, I didn't hear, here is a chance to grow. What I heard was, Lame, you're not good enough. I really struggled with receiving feedback. One moment changed my life or changed my perspective about feedback. It was like a Toastmasters meeting like this one. I walked up to the physical stage to deliver my speech. The truth of the matter, I believed I was confident enough. I believe I articulated myself well. I believe I connected with my audience quite well. I delivered my presentation. During the course of the meeting, my evaluator walks up to give my evaluation. In her words, she said, Lame Mthethwa, that was a good speech. You spoke so fast and people could have missed your message. I smiled at her, but internally, I was offended. I felt maybe she doesn't understand my style. Maybe she doesn't get it. Then another moment changed my perspective again. I decided, let me watch the video of my speech. Guess what? She was right. In my speech, I sounded or I looked more nervous than confident. I was running over my words. I was running over my statements. I was just standing still. Throughout that week, her words replayed in my mind. Her words replayed in my mind. But after watching that video, I realized something realized about feedback? The first thing I realized about feedback, fellow Toastmasters and guests, is that growth requires mirrors. Fellow Toastmasters and guests, we all have blind spots. And the thing about blind spots is that we cannot see them. When an evaluator is listening to your speech and making the observations and later give you an evaluation, they're helping you see your blind spots. When you now know your blind spots, you are able to employ the necessary improvement you need to grow. I believe we're all here because we want to improve our public speaking in one way or the other. We want to improve our communication. And the only way to do that is when we are aware of our blind spots. The second thing I realized, or there was a light bulb concerning that experience, was this. Improvement requires adjustment. Yes, improvement requires adjustment. How can you adjust something that you're not aware of? One man once said, you can't confront what you can't defeat what you can't confront. And the only way for you to confront something is for you to be aware of it. If you're not aware that you overuse your hand gestures, if you're not aware that you speak or you run over your speech, if you're not aware that you don't utilize your space, how then can you improve? The third or the last thing that I learned through that moment is why Toastmasters say feedback is the breakfast of champions. Ladies and gentlemen, feedback fuels excellence. And you may wonder, how does it fuel excellence? Without feedback, we are prone to repeating the same mistakes. If for all your speeches, you overused your hand gestures, you spoke so fast like Lame did, and nobody made you aware of it, it means with every speech, you'll be repeating the same mistake, repeating the same mistake. And if you keep repeating the same mistake, then how would you build excellence? How would you see that you're growing? How would you know which adjustments to make? Now, I know why they say feedback is the breakfast of champions. All these realizations, fellow Toastmasters and guests, made me love feedback. I can't wait to receive my feedback later. Why? Because I want to grow. Why? Because I want to make adjustments. Why? Because I want to be excellent. And excellence, I'm not talking about perfection. I want to see improvement in my communication, in my public speaking. That's why I yearn for feedback, because I realized that in Toastmasters or as a speaker, I can only thrive through feedback. I would like to leave you with these words. Every time you receive an evaluation or you receive feedback, listen, reflect, and find a lesson to learn. I'll repeat that again. Listen, reflect, and find a lesson to learn. Over to you, Toastmaster of the Day.
Listen, reflect, and find the lesson. That's my takeaway from your speech this evening. Thank you very much, Lame Mthethwa, for that informative speech. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, we have our next speaker. I did say that we have changed our program around just a little bit. So let me just communicate the order of the speeches. Our first speaker was Lame Mthethwa. Our second speaker will then be Ola. Our third, Barnabas. Fourth, Tepo. Fifth, Chanda. And sixth speaker will then be Kagiso. So we've just taken Lame and bumped her up right at the top. Great. Next up, we move on to our second speaker this evening, who is Ola Murinda. And Ola Murinda is on her presentation mastery pathway. His presentation mastery pathway, and he will be evaluated by Thulaganyo Tshweneagae. Thulaganyo, please join me on the virtual stage to tell us about the speech objectives for Ola. Is Thulaganyo on the call?
Yes, she is.
Oh, perfect. Lovely.
Good afternoon. Sorry. Good evening, Madam Toastmasters, fellow Toastmasters, our distinguished guests, and especially our speaker, Mr. Ola Murinda. It is a pleasure to serve as your evaluator this evening. So Ola Murinda will be presenting a speech under Presentation Mastery Level 1. The project title is Writing a Speech with a Purpose. The title of Ola's speech is Why SMEs Fail in Botswana. So the project of his title is for Ola to practice writing and also to deliver a speech with a purpose. The objectives of this speech is for Ola to focus on specific purpose and also to focus on organizing his ideas in an effective way, and also to deliver a message that achieves the intended outcome with the audience. So as his evaluator, I've partitioned my evaluation into 3 parts. The first one is what you're going to be excelling in or what stands out when you're presenting a speech. And the second one is what you may wish to work on for future growth. And lastly, what you may wish to challenge yourself on. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tuli. Right. We have our speaker this evening, who is Mr. Ola. My apologies. I said she. I heard myself.
No problem.
Right. Ladies and gentlemen, Ola Murinda with Why SMEs Fail in Botswana. Why SMEs Fail in Botswana, Ola Murinda.
Thank you, Toastmaster of the Day. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and most welcome guests. I have a friend of mine. I remember one evening after work, a notification popped on his phone and he smiled and said, "What you guys want to eat today? Cost on me." In that moment, it felt like generosity, but in truth, it was a glimpse into a bigger problem. Treating business bank account as a personal wallet the moment money came in. Like they always say, we all start somewhere, but we fail to realize that what got us here won't get us there. The people, habits, and systems we had when we started our business might not be useful in the future. Therefore, it is imperative for business owner to be aware of such and adjust accordingly to enable business success. Ladies and gentlemen, that is why today we are going to talk about why small medium enterprises fail in Botswana. Can you believe that the failure rate of SMEs in Botswana is estimated to be as high as 90%? From my perspective, this is an extremely alarming figure. It highlights how serious the challenges facing small businesses are in our country. Real businesses, real dreams, and real livelihoods are being lost. There are many factors that contribute to this high failure rate. However, today we are going to focus on just two of them. The first one is limited market size, and the second one, lack of managerial skills and business acumen. Under limited market size, imagine you open a business where your entire customer base is smaller than a neighborhood in Johannesburg, with only about 2.6 million people scattered across a country the size of France. Imagine having to travel long distances just to make a sale. I know one might argue now or raise a point and say, we have social media. There's no need for us to actually travel long distances just to make that sale. I'll give you that one. But the point I'm trying to make here is that we make more sales in where people are concentrated. In scattered market like Botswana, SMEs are forced to compete for very small customer base. However, as much as the limited market size factor influenced the failure rate of SMEs in Botswana, owners can't blame it for their failure. And one might ask why. Because if some SME owners were to operate in a bigger market, they will still fail because of the second factor, lack of managerial skills and business acumen. Most of these SMEs in Botswana are technically skilled people. They know how to cook, how to fix cars, but knowing how to do something is not the same as know how to run a business that does that thing. And they tend to have a problem with financial management. They don't keep proper records, they mix personal and business finances, and worst of all, they don't know whether they are making a profit. And another problem is that they have weak human resource management. Many of them, they don't know how to recruit, train, or train good staff. They fail to attract and retain good employees. And without strong people, business performance declines. Ladies and gentlemen, imagine you work for a consultancy agency and you are expected to work long hours and you are a very productive employee. Yet there are no incentives, no growth, no rewards for achieving targets. If you were to be honest, would you stay in a job like that? Please feel free to unmute your mic.
No, I
No,
wouldn't.
definitely not.
Exactly. The company would lose top talent, which could have helped long-term success of the company. That's how many SMEs quietly fail while only a few adapt and survive. Ladies and gentlemen, SMEs in Botswana fail for many reasons, but two stand out: limited market size and lack of managerial skills and business acumen. I would love to leave you with this. Let us invest in propulsive initiatives that drive our businesses forward. By doing so, we empower the next generation to carry the torch and build an even stronger future. Now more than ever, our economy depends on the growth and resilience of SMEs. With that, thank you and over to you, Toastmaster of the Day.
Wow. Thank you very much for that, Ola. That was an insightful presentation about a very interesting topic here in our local market, Botswana. I hope our audience was paying close attention to what makes SMEs fail in Botswana. Right. Next up, we have our third speaker this evening, and that will be Barnabas Morake. Barnabas will be evaluated by Solofelo Senuelo. Solofelo, please join me on the virtual stage to give us Barnabas's speech objectives this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, and good evening, fellow Toastmasters and distinguished guests, especially you, Barnabas Morake. I'll be evaluating Barnabas Morake, who is completing his second speech in the Presentation Mastery Path Level 1, project titled Evaluation and Feedback, a project designed to help members practice incorporating feedback and demonstrating growth as communicators. Barnabas will present his speech titled The Future Without HIV. The speech duration is 5 to 7 minutes. As his evaluator, I will be listening carefully and assessing his speech in 3 key areas. Firstly, where he excelled. Second, areas for improvement. And lastly, how he can challenge himself in his next speech as he continues to grow on his Toastmasters journey. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Barnabas Morake as he presents The Future Without HIV.
Thank you, Tsolofelo. Ladies and gentlemen, Barnabas Morake, The Future Without HIV. The Future Without HIV, Barnabas Morake.
Thank you. Not every HIV target achieved is a client helped. Not every HIV target achieved is not a client helped. This is the phrase I came across earlier today while I was preparing for my speech tonight. And it resonated very well with my speech title. You'll learn later why is that. Good evening, Toastmaster of the Day, toasters and guests. In 2022, we attended a conference in Geneva. Virtually, I mean. This theme for that year was the last mile, the future without HIV. In that conference, the WHO Director General, Dr. Tedros, popped up in our screen. A man with bald hair and Victorian eyeglasses. Of course, as per presentation protocols, he spoke to a few slides before. But our eyes, our anxiety were on the result. We could not wait until slide 5, which got the results. As he zoomed on that slide, he announced boldly, Botswana has achieved its UN/AIDS target. There was absolute pandemonium in the room. High fives, breaking of the tables, and almost near kisses. We almost forgot we are in a professional city. He continued. The country has achieved 95%, 98% rather, 95% and 90%. So what are these targets? Target number 1, it meant 95% of the population must get tested. Target number 2, 95 of those who got tested for HIV, 95% of those should be on treatment. Target number 3, 95% of those who are on treatment should be virally suppressed. So we achieved these targets for the age group 15 to 64 years old. The mood in the room, like I said, was exorbitant. We were excited. We even felt that we are what usually is referred to as punctus officio that we've made our achievement. And that achievement was thanks to the propulsive leadership of the late Ramagai. May his soul rest in peace. However, he continued. Ooh, the mood in the room got down. It got somber. It got somber. The tension was palpable. However, that word is always unsettling. Adolescent and young girls aged 10 to 24 did not achieve these targets. In fact, the statistics were 95% for the first target, 84% for the second target, and 90% for the third target, meaning they only achieved 1/3 of these targets. What does that mean? It means we have a group that is lagging behind. It meant we need to reprogram and see how best we can help this population. Now, when I started my speech, I spoke about the phrase that not every HIV target met is a client helped. I am sure now you can relate why is that the case. While the country was celebrating the bigger success of achieving the targets, there was a group which was lagging behind. Unfortunately, it's always women, it's always girls, it's always children. Somehow they get left behind. So, what does that mean for us as a country in the HIV response? It means we need to address the inequalities that women and girls face in the country. The very same inequalities that exacerbate gender-based violence. We need to equip and empower our young girls and women with economic skills so they can be able to fend for themselves. Because by not working on rely on someone else, they are at a higher risk of HIV acquisition. The third one, among others, we need to strengthen youth-friendly services so that young people are able to access services freely and where they are without fear of stigma or discrimination. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll need a new propulsive leadership and programming that will propel this age group to be at par with other population, so that when we speak of the last mile, the future without HIV, this becomes a reality for everyone, including adolescent girls and young women. I urge all of you to come to the party and find their own propulsive efforts to ensure that this group is not left behind. Thank you.
Well done, Bunny. Well done. I was expecting your speech to be very serious and educational, but you managed to get us laughing in between there. Thank you very much for making a serious topic entertaining as well. Next up, we have our fourth speaker, I believe, and that is Tshepo Makgoe. Tshepo Makgoe will be evaluated by Tumelo Maphalala this evening. Tumelo, please join me on the virtual stage to tell us about Tshepo's speech objectives. Thanks.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster of the evening. Good evening, Gaborone Toastmasters, visiting Toastmasters and guests. Tonight, I have the pleasure of evaluating one of my favorites, Tsepo Iting Mahoe, as she pursues the pathway Presentation Mastery, Level 1, Project 4, Evaluation and Feedback, the second speech. This means that Tsepo delivered her first speech, received feedback, and is expected to have implemented it. Tonight, she demonstrates that she has internalized this feedback and is able to appreciate it and use it to further develop herself. With that, I'll give my evaluation later during the evaluation segment. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster of the evening.
Thank you, Madam Evaluator. You mentioned that this is your favorite speaker. I hope you're not biased in your evaluation, but anyway. Ladies and gentlemen, Tsepo Mahoe with The Anchor in the Storm. The Anchor in the Storm, Tsepo Mahoe.
We have all heard the ancient cliche, change is the only constant. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests, tonight I want to challenge that. Because we live our life trying to build castles out of wet sand. We look for permanence in all the wrong places. We tie our identity to our bank accounts. We also anchor our happiness to our relationships. We then convince ourselves that if I can keep this person for longer, if I can achieve the next milestone, I'll be finally safe. Then the tide rolls in. The company downsizes, the relationship ends, and then we are left gasping for air. I want to assure you today and tell you that the only permanent person in your life will always be yourself. People move into and out of our life like actors in a rotating stage. Sometimes they gradually leave, sometimes they are swept off from under our feet. I want to tell you a story of my life and the experience which I encountered in 2019. On the 11th of August, my mother passed away. I was still trying to get used to not having around, not hearing her voice. When 34 days later, on the 14th of September, my dad passed away. To lose one parent alters your realities, but to lose both parents a month apart shatters it. I was then left to pick up the pieces and try to rebuild my life. I was going on the process of rebuilding my life when in 2020, I hired a house helper. But unfortunately, a few weeks ago, when I was still busy with my daily work, with my reports, I had a knock on my door. When she came in, she said to me, "Can we talk?" I said, "Yes, of course." She will then later reveal to me that she's leaving at the end of the month. I was left shattered at that point. My heart was racing. I was asking myself, why is it that everything that I depend on so much in my life finally or eventually leaves my life? But then when I was sitting there, sitting alone in the room, a profound realization hit me. During that time, there was still someone who was left in the room. That person was myself, obviously. And then I realized that we often celebrate people who come into our life, but we never take time to appreciate and acknowledge the person who has never left. You were there for your first breath. You are going to be there for your last breath. Lately, I've been embarking on improving my public speaking. I joined Toastmasters. I'll then register my name for speaking during meetings. The whole process is grueling. Week in and week out, I need to prepare. But I never took time to really acknowledge and appreciate myself and applaud myself for the work that I'm doing. Because in all this, I have been there when I was not my whole. I was there when I was still grieving. I was there when it was difficult. But I always made sure I show up. Tonight, I want to take this time and applaud myself for doing very well under the circumstances. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to ask you tonight, if you are the only guest of honor in your life, how have you been treating yourself? And I want to encourage you to start investing in yourself. First, you need to applaud your milestone. You don't need to wait for a polished performance for you to applaud yourself. Secondly, you need to acknowledge your strength. Look at your history and see how you've been doing. You've been doing very well under the circumstances. Third, you need to embrace the process. The process is not going to be easy, of course, but you need to applaud yourself throughout whatever you are doing and pat yourself in the back. Life is always going to be difficult, and it is also always going to be throwing curveballs to us. But what you need to do as a person, you need to understand that there's nothing you can do about it. Let it. Pause, take a breath, and then continue applauding yourself. Because at the end of the day, you are the author of your life. You are the constant. You are the storm chaser. Thank you, and back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Well done, well done. What an inspiring speech, Temple. I now understand why your evaluator said you were her favorite. Spot on. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, we have the I'm counter is probably telling up my scores for using filler words, but it's fine. Our next speaker was supposed to be Chandada Nkwadume. Unfortunately, she is unable to give the speech this evening, and her speech will be deferred to next week. So we will then. Yes, she made it on the call, but she's unable to give this speech. Thank you, Dumelo. Right. I will then move on to our next and final speaker this evening, who is Kagiso Kelebamang. Kagiso will be evaluated by Leah. Leah, Please join me on the virtual stage to give Kagiso's evaluation. Did I even send it to you? I don't believe I did. Let
No, but
me.
I know the speech. Don't worry. I know the project.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
All right. Okay. Okay. Thank you. If I'm not mistaken, this is a speech that is done in two parts. So it's delivering a social speech. So she has previously presented a social speech. So she's delivering another one because that's how the project is done. So it's supposed to be a speech on any topic. It's a social speech. So it's not the normal standard 5 to 7 minutes type of speech that she'll be delivering for us this evening. Thank you. And back to you, Madam Toastmaster of the Day.
Thank you, Leah. Thank you so much for stepping up. This is for our timer. Please note that Kagiso's speech is 3 to 4 minutes and not the normal 5 to 7 minutes. So please time as per the 3 to 4 minute speech objective, right? Great. Ladies and gentlemen, with that said, our final speaker this evening, Kagiso Kilebemang, with the speech titled Employee of the Year Acceptance Speech. Employee of the Year Acceptance Speech, Kagiso Kilebemang.
People often say that success is a destination, but I've come to believe that success is built on steps that you take continuously each and every day, and also through pervasive action. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am truly honored to accept the Employee of the Year award. Honestly, when my name was mentioned, I was genuinely surprised because I know that I work with hardworking, incredibly talented colleagues. First and foremost, to be recognized as the best employee of the year is both an honor and a responsibility that I do not take for granted. I would like to thank the leaders and the team that was involved in this recognition. It is truly motivating to know that all my hard work does come with positive impacts for myself and the organization. I would also like to recognize the colleagues that I work with. We have gone through challenges together, we've met deadlines together, we've achieved projects that were successful for the organization, and together we have brought a successful year. Behind every project, behind every deadline, I felt the support of my colleagues. And I'm very fortunate enough to be working with people who are selfless, people who hold hands with each other and push each other to grow. This award may have my name, but it truly reflects the collective collaboration of the entire team. Throughout my career, I've learned that success is not just about being the smartest person in the room. It is not about always having the answers. It's about being teachable, being adaptable, persevering in challenges, and always remaining humble and bringing your best each and every day. There were moments of uncertainty, there were moments of challenge. But one thing that I always told myself is that with a good attitude and showing up every day, indeed, my career would be a success. I would also like to show gratitude for my mentors and thank them for always pushing me, for challenging me, for throwing all those roles that made me the professional that I am today. I am truly honored. I would also like to thank my family and my friends who supported me in this journey. Your patience, your love, and encouragement has really led me to who I am today. And as I accept this award, it is not only just an award, but it is a motivation to keep showing up each day, to stay motivated, and to always bring out my best. Thank you once again for this incredible honor, for this incredible award. I am deeply grateful, and look forward to continue working in this organization and growing my journey. Thank you.
Well done, Kariso. It's evident that your propulsive leadership is what got you your award for Best Employee at your organization. Well done for that. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our prepared speeches section. We will then move on to the next section, which is that of Timekeeper's Report, Table Topics, and Harkmaster. I'd like to call upon our timer this evening, who is Mr. Sammy, to give us the timer's report in 2 to 3 minutes. Sammy? You're on mute. Still on mute?
I think still on mute.
Nah, you're good.
How about now? Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster of the day, fellow Toastmasters and guests. We're gonna start with the first presenter, which is Lami Mtetwa. Lami Mtetwa was a bit over time. His speech was 7 minutes, 24 seconds. Then we go to the second speaker, which is Ola Murinda. His speech was 6 minutes, 16 seconds. Then followed by Barnabas Morake. His speech was 6 minutes, 51 seconds. Then followed by Tsepo Mahoe. His speech was 7 minutes, 28 seconds. Then lastly, it was Kagiso Gelebeng. His speech was well within the allotted time, which was 3 minutes, 31 seconds. I would say that overall speakers finished within their allotted time, and those who went overboard, you improve next time. Thank you so much. Over to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Sammy. Absolutely. Here at Toastmasters, all we do is work on improving each and every time. Leah, are we going to have our poll for Best Effort Speaker this evening?
Yes, the poll is ready. I'll launch it.
Okay, perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, you will see a poll pop up on your screen. Kindly vote for your Best Effort Speaker this evening as we proceed to our next segment. I believe I'm voting, so please do the same and vote for your Best Effort Speaker. Right, I will proceed while we vote. I believe the voting is still ongoing. Right, next up, we have my favorite segment here at Toastmasters, Table Topics. It tends to be a little intimidating, but every time you take up a table topic, you come out of there feeling victorious because going up on stage is not an easy task. So, ladies and gentlemen, to lead our table topic session this evening is Keletso Maidi. Keletso Maidi, please join me on the virtual stage and take over the table topics session. Thank you.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. Again, I have 5 questions here that speaks to today's theme, carrying the torch forward. May I kindly have 5 volunteers for the 5 questions? Just 5 volunteers. I'm not seeing anybody. Please help me that side.
Hi, Keleso. Dumelo here. May I take a table topic?
Which number are you choosing from 1 to 5?
Number 5, please.
Number 5, please. Dumelo. Thank you. Today's theme is carrying the torch forward. What would the world lose if people stopped mentoring one another? I repeat, what would the world lose if people stopped mentoring one another?
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master. In 2018, I started my internship at my current place of work. I initially wanted to ask my manager, someone who I had found out had been a manager since they were 29 years old, to mentor me into this role I was starting. I was met with great resistance and I soon held back. That was extremely humbling for me. But instead, I sought a mentor or mentors in other spaces, such as Toastmasters. And there I grew in leaps and bounds. I am afraid of imagining a future where we do not have mentorship. Unfortunately, I didn't get it at my place of work, but through other channels, I managed to develop myself to do better. And I wish the same of the entire world. So, a world without mentorship stands to lose a great deal on empowering young professionals to become better at the jobs that they do and to ultimately become better leaders in the society. The world would indeed lose a great deal if it were to go without mentorship. To everyone on this call tonight, take the plunge in mentoring someone in your space. It literally costs you nothing. Zero pula. Pay it forward. Pass on the baton to the next person. Thank you. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster. Madam Table Topics Master.
Whoop, 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 whoop. A round of applause for Dumelo.
Whoop, 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 whoop. Madam Table Topics Master, we have three volunteers. We have Sammy, who is volunteered, Mpho, and Kingsley.
Sammy, Mpho, and Kingsley. Let's
Yes.
start with the first one. Sammy, we have question 1 up to 4. Which number are you choosing?
Oh, sorry, I didn't volunteer. My hand was just up for the timekeeper's role.
But you can take it up.
Next meeting.
Next meeting.
Okay.
Yes. All right.
Okay.
We have Mpho.
Mpho? Mpho. Which number are you choosing from 1 to 4?
I'm choosing 2.
2. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Guys, remember there is no right or wrong answer. Okay? The purpose of this is just to speak on your calves or on your feet. Question 2 goes, Mpho. If you were passing the torch to your successor today, what advice would you give? If you are passing the torch to your successor today, what advice would you give? Thank you.
If I was passing the torch to my successor today, what advice would I give? Okay. One day when I was still young, there was one day when I was still young, there were things that I have read and people who helped me or inspired me to do better in life. So if I'm to pass the baton, I would say to the young ones or the younger me, the younger generation, to keep on reading and then to keep on listening at school and working hard. Thank you. Back to you, Madam Teddy.
Mpho, thank you so much. That was fantastic. We are a round of applause for Mpho.
Whoop, 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 whoop.
We have question 1, 3, and 4 left. Who's our next volunteer?
Your next
to
volunteer is Kingsley.
Kinsley. Are you ready, Kinsley? May I get a yeah?
Hi, yes, I'm ready.
We have number 1, number 3, and number 4. Which number are you choosing?
Uno.
Best, numero uno. Thank you. What is the difference between learning? What is the difference between leaving a mark and leaving a legacy? What do you think the
Thank you.
difference between leaving a mark and leaving a legacy means? Thank you.
Thank you, Keleto. Leaving a mark and leaving a legacy. Well, surely a legacy is something that stands the test of time. A legacy is a collection of lessons and values and achievements that are passed on to future generations. Legacies shift economies, legacies build countries. We recently lost our former president, Festus Mogae, and his presidency surely was one of a great legacy. We know him as the economist, and most of us here have most likely benefited from his presidency. That has left a legacy of educated Botswana, that has left the legacy of a country that was just a desert and is now one of the leading economies in the southern region. And leaving steps surely is a path to leaving a legacy. Steps are the path that we take to ensuring that the legacy that we leave behind is one of impact. And legacies carry the torch forward. Legacies ensure that there is propulsion in values and culture and greater humanity. Thank you.
Thank you. A round of applause for Kinsley. Pa, 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 pa. Thank you, Kinsley. Two more questions to go. Any volunteer?
Barnabas is volunteering.
Oh, sweet. Barnabas, we are left with question 3 and 4. Which number are you picking?
3.
3, thank you. How do you balance respecting tradition while embracing change? How do you balance respecting tradition while embracing change?
Wow, that's a tough one. Tradition generally is something that can easily be changed. It's usually a back and forth conversation over time between those who are involved. But I think for me, the best approach would to be infuse change slowly over time while navigating the challenges around. Because honestly, not everyone is going to agree with the change. In fact, when change comes, there's so much resistance. So the best approach among me that could be explored, education rather, not health. Excuse me, because I'm from a health background, but public health education. So people are informed of what are the proposed changes, what do they feel about them, and what do you think could be improved, more sort of like a referendum. Again, change involves other non-partisan states and non-factors that may be hidden. So these conversations over time expose each and everyone involved to see the bigger picture of what changes are. You can even cite some of the case studies that is seen around. But it doesn't mean that change is a bad thing. It just means it makes things uncomfortable at a point. But in the long term, will propel everyone involved to greater heights. This is the change that we've seen, or we can give testament to as a country of Botswana. From independence, we've seen so much change, but we also preserved our tradition. So I think it's something that is very possible. Thank you.
Wow, wow, wow. Pa, 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 for Barnabas. Thank you so much. The last one, last but not least, who's volunteering for the last question? Anybody?
I don't see any volunteers. Perhaps you can volunteer someone.
Let me see from
Madam Table Topics Master, we're running out of time.
Okay. Thank you so much, everybody, for the eloquent and remarkable table topics answering. Thank you, Kingsley, Mpho, Barnabas, and Dumelo. Over to you.
TMOD. Thank you, Table Topics Master. I hope I'm not on mute. Oh, I'm not. Perfect. Thank you very much, Table Topics Master, for leading that session, and to the brave men and women that took that challenge. Well done. Right. Next up, we have our next section, which is the Hack Master session. This is where we challenge your listening skills, and I will be leading that section with just a few questions. I tried not to make them difficult. So I ask that you all unmute your mics. Unmute your mics, because this is a fun interactive session where you just scream out the correct, Tumelo, correct answer. Please don't just scream out random answers. Correct answer.
You know me too well.
I do. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, please unmute those mics. Mics are muted. I can see them on the call. They're muted. All right. Great. Okay. Perfect. First question is, what was the name of Ola's speech? Don't look at the agenda.
Why SMME failed?
Why SME fail in Botswana?
Okay. No, that's correct. Next question. Bunny spoke about the future with HIV, and he mentioned a group that is usually left out. Which group is that?
women,
Women
girls,
and
and
children.
children.
Yes, 100%. Bunny said young women and girls need to be empowered. What skill? Oh, I gave away the answer. Never mind. It's okay. We move. Teppo spoke about the permanence of one person in your life. Who is that one person?
You,
Me,
Me.
me, myself, and I.
Myself.
Me, myself, and I.
All right. Teppo's mom passed away on the 11th of which month?
August.
August.
August. Okay, perfect. Teppo said you are the storm chaser and something of your life.
Permanent person.
Anchor.
No.
You don't know.
Going once, going twice. Author of your life.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Yes, yes. Um, ooh. Tumelo said she didn't receive mentorship from her workplace, but she received it from elsewhere. Where did she receive mentorship from?
Toastmasters.
Toastmasters.
Yay!
Yay.
How much does it cost you to mentor someone? How much?
Zero pila.
Free.
Zero. Zero
Zero
pila.
pila.
Okay, yes, you were listening. Kingsley mentioned a prominent person in his table topic. Which person was that? Who was that?
Sisters.
Toastmasters.
100%. Okay, no, those were quite easy. Next time I'll remember to make them difficult. Ladies and gentlemen, those are the only questions I had this evening. Thank you for participating. And it is quite evident that you are paying close attention to our speakers this evening. Thank you very much for participating. Well done to you. You may mute your mics. Muted? Muted. Perfect. Right. We now move on to the Breakfast of Champions. That is our evaluations segment. As mentioned, it's not all about speaking here at Toastmasters. We also listen and we receive feedback. In order for you to grow as a speaker, you must receive feedback to improve on your speaking skills. So this section will address exactly that. Our evaluation segment will be led by none other than Leah Musunga, who is in place of Mpho. I believe Mpho is still not on the call. Let me just confirm. Yes, she's still not on the call. So may I please ask Leah to join me on the stage and take over this section. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much for that, Madam Toastmaster of the Day. And as you have stated, the beauty about Toastmasters is that we get given feedback when we present our speeches as a valuable way for us to be able to improve and grow as we continue in our public speaking journey. So this is basically what the evaluators are doing is that they're critiquing the speech, and it's not just for the speakers who are presenting today, but it's even for us, the people in the audience, because there could be some nuggets that we may pick that we may want to implement in our speeches as we are also striving to become better speakers. So please listen like we were doing with the previously when we were questioned, because you never know the kind of information that may be shared that you can also implement in your speech and shorten your journey to become an eloquent speaker. So this evening we had five speakers? Five speakers, and I will just call the evaluators according to how the speaker spoke this evening. So I'm gonna start with our first speaker, Lame. I'm not sure if she's on the call, but either way, I'll send her the evaluation afterwards. So in terms of Lame's speech, and I also want to remind our timer, please note that you have to time the evaluations 2 to 3 minutes according to the timing guide. So in terms of Lame's speech this evening, I will share in terms of what she did well and what she may want to work on. So Lame was presenting a speech that she had previously presented, and she was applying the feedback that she had received. And part of the feedback she had received previously was for her to use more of the stage and to also speak a bit slower. So in terms of the items that were listed in terms of what she can do to improve, I think it definitely came out today that she did, in terms of her voice pacing, she really paced her speech really well. And even in terms of how she used the stage, because you could clearly see from the actions that she was using in terms of her use of her hands to emphasize her speech in various parts of her speech, that it was really well used, because she would talk about running over her words. So that was a very great use of her hand gestures to emphasize certain aspects of her speech. It's very clear that Lame knows, obviously, the basic structures of preparing a speech. So in terms of what I picked up that maybe she may want to work on for her follow-up speeches is that she tended to just present her speech just from one particular point. Even as much as she is on a Zoom meeting, it's always great to actually also move as a way across the screen as a way to practice when you find yourself in an in-person situation. So I would definitely recommend Lame to use more of the space, because I know there was a part where she was telling us about 3 steps. She did use her hands really well, so I'd recommend for her to use her body in terms of just moving across the screen 1, 2, and 3 as a way to continue to emphasize the use of movement on the stage, even if it is virtual. Other than that, it was a well-presented speech, great pacing, and great hand gestures were employed. And as she told us, we should listen, reflect, and find lessons to learn every time we receive an evaluation. Thank you for the speech, Lame. Looking forward to your follow-up speeches. So with that being said, I will then move on to our next evaluator, and I would like to invite to the virtual stage Dolahanyo, who was evaluating Ola's speech. Dolahanyo?
Thank you very much, Miss Leah. Firstly, well done, Ola, on such a wonderful and insightful speech. I must say I've learned a few insights on why our businesses are failing, small businesses are failing in Botswana. So I'll start my evaluation with what you excelled at. Honestly, I loved your speech, Ola, and a lot of things stood out for me, but I'll just mention a few. The first thing that stood out for me was just the clarity of your purpose. From the beginning of your speech, it was quite clear that your goal was to educate your audience on why small businesses are failing in Botswana. And you did just that by highlighting you highlighted some of the reasons that leads to failure. And you did not only highlight, but you gave examples, you gave percentages, numbers, right? And I love that a lot. It shows that you thoroughly did your research on them. You also expanded on the reasons to honestly educate so that we are well informed and understand. You also highlighted real life experiences that are currently happening in Botswana. You stated on how weak human resource management failed to attract qualified people. I also loved how you engaged the audience, Ola, when you posed a question and the audience answered. It shows that you were really interacting with the audience on educating them. When it comes to your conclusion, I loved your conclusion, Ola. It was very strong. You moved beyond simply just informing the audience, but you left an inspiring action. You quoted that, let us invest in initiatives that will empower our next generation. I feel like that was a strong call to action that left us, the audience, honestly inspired and motivated. So I honestly love that a lot. I will quickly move on to what you may wish to work on and also what you may wish to challenge yourself on. Ola, next time when you give your speech, I would challenge you to to give your speech standing up. I feel like that will give you an opportunity to measure your level of confidence and also to just get to use your stage. I like to encourage you to do that next time. And also, I like to encourage you to further your growth on your use of vocal variety. I feel like you can do so much with just varying of your tone when you are giving such an insightful speech. That way, it will help to reinforce your message and also just the use of your gestures. I feel like you can improve on how to use, your hands and so on. And I also like to challenge you, Ola, on just to continue developing your storytelling and also just examples like you did, but I also feel like you can give more, especially when you are doing such a oh, I thought I lost my connection. I feel like you can develop your storytelling and also examples when you're giving out your speeches, especially when you are writing a speech with purpose. I feel like using oh, I lost my train of thought. um I was still talking about what you can challenge yourself on. Ola, I loved how you gave out examples, real life examples, but I want to challenge you to work on giving more real life examples. It's very important to do that, especially when you are giving such an insightful speech. It helps to the audience to understand more. But in conclusion, that was a well organized, insightful, and purposeful speech. Well done, Ola. That's all.
Thank you so much, Tolahanyo, for that detailed evaluation of our last speech. We'll move right along to our next evaluator, who was evaluating Barnabas, and that was Tulufelo. So Tulufelo, if you could please come to the virtual stage and give us your feedback on Barnabas' speech. Hello, Tulufelo. Okay, there we go.
Here I am. Thank you. Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. Firstly, congratulations on successfully delivering your second speech. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, just a moment. Let me. My apologies, Toastmasters. Just a moment. Let me. Okay, thank you, thank you for your patience. Firstly, let me congratulate you, Barnabas, on successfully delivering your second speech under the evaluation and feedback project in the presentation mastery level 1. When I had the title, The Future Without HIV, I expected a very serious and perhaps technical speech. However, I was pleasantly surprised by how engaging and entertaining you made the topic. You demonstrated that even a serious subject can be presented in a way that captures and sustains audience interest. Well done on your second speech. Before I get into my evaluation, I would like to commend you for acting on the feedback you got from your first speech. During your first speech, you were advised to go straight into the speech rather than begin with a preamble unrelated to the topic. You were also encouraged to make your opening clear by introducing the title early and to move closer to the screen to strengthen audience engagement. I am pleased to say that today you demonstrated significant improvement in these areas. Well done. This shows that you listened and applied the feedback you received. Let me begin with where you excelled. Your opening was stronger and immediately captured attention of the audience. I particularly liked how you repeated your opening statement for emphasis. This helped reinforce your message and ensure it remained with the audience. More importantly, unlike your first speech, your opening was directly linked to your topic and clearly set the stage for the speech that followed. You also demonstrated good stage presence. For most of your speech, you kept your hands clasped, which helped you appear composed and confident. In addition, your gestures were purposeful at key moments. For example, when you described people celebrating, you acted out the high fives and then lowered your hands to demonstrate people banging tables in excitement. This brought the story to life and helped the audience visualize the scene. Another strength was your use of movement. When discussing the 3 targets, you moved from the right to the center and then to the left of the screen to say first, second, third. This effectively separated your points and made them easier to follow. I also noticed that you moved closer to the screen at a certain point, which helped create a stronger connection with the audience and demonstrated engagement. This was particularly pleasing to see because it was one of the challenges given to you after your first speech. Finally, I noticed that you were not reading your speech. This is commendable because it allowed you to maintain eye contact and connect naturally with your audience. Well done. Now, let me move to areas for improvement. While keeping your hands clasped helped you maintain composure, I noticed that there were moments of unintentional body movement, including some swaying and unnecessary hand gestures. Being more conscious of these moments will help you appear even more confident and polished. I also noticed that when you mentioned numbers, you did not make use of hand gestures to reinforce them. For example, when mentioning 1 point, you could raise one finger, For 2 points, you could raise 2 fingers and so on. Simple gestures like this help reinforce your message visually and make it easier for the audience to follow. Finally, how can you challenge yourself in your next speech? I encourage you to focus on vocal variety. You already have good content and effective movement. The next step is to vary your pace, volume, tone, and emphasis to create even greater impact. Vocal variety will help highlight key messages, maintain audience attention, and add emotion to your delivery. Barnabas, to summarize, where you excelled, you showed that you took feedback seriously by improving your opening, introducing your topic clearly, moving closer to the screen, using purposeful movement, engaging the audience, and speaking without relying on notes. Now, what you need to work on, reducing unintentional body movements and incorporating more deliberate hand gestures, especially when presenting numbers and key points. Where you need to challenge yourself, focus on vocal variety to make your delivery even more dynamic, engaging, and memorable. Barnabas, this project evaluation and feedback today, you have demonstrated exactly what is designed to achieve: the ability to receive feedback, apply it, and improve. Congratulations on a well-delivered speech. I look forward to seeing your continued growth in future speeches. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tolofelo, for that indeed well-detailed evaluation of Barnabas' speech. I would then like to just invite Tumelo to please come to the virtual stage and give us the feedback for Tsepo's speech. Tumelo.
Thank you so much, Madam General Evaluator. Good evening, Gaborone Toastmasters, visiting Toastmasters and guests. Tonight, I had the pleasure of evaluating Tsepo Eating Mahwe as she delivered the speech, The Anchor in the Storm. Well done, Tsepo, for delivering your second speech in the evaluation and feedback project. In your last speech, you received feedback to work on pausing for emphasis, especially after asking the audience questions, to be mindful of a long introduction, and also to incorporate purposeful movement in your speech. For your benefit, I will mention the 3 things I believe you have done well in regard to the feedback that you had received. Your intro, you did do your best to shorten it before giving the honorifics of greeting the club. You also did best to incorporate pauses within your speech. I could visibly observe you pausing for emphasis or even speaking slower in some parts for the questions or the statements to land on your audience. You did also incorporate purposeful hand movement. You used gestures such as when you said things would shatter or you would pick up the pieces, which were actually helpful in expanding your spoken word. However, the 2 things I think you may want to work on are unintentional body language. Tsepo, I believe you are aware that your default setting is to clasp your hands. This gives away most of the time that you are nervous. So you only spoke or emphasized with your words in some parts, but majority, I noticed you had clasped your hands. The second thing I also picked up was stage presence. Tsepo, I noticed that you stood in primarily one spot in the center of your screen or your now stage. So one way to challenge yourself, Tsepo, I saw or I noticed that you used the power of 3. You spoke of 3 things you wanted us to do or to remember when knowing that we are indeed the storm chasers and the authors of our own lives. That was an opportunity to use the stage, as in to move across or pace on your stage. So one way to challenge yourself, you can mark out
your stage before you speak. I've seen this being done at contests to say this is the start and the end of the speaking area, and you will use this stage. So in summary, Tsepo, the three things you did well: you did incorporate your feedback, you are mindful of your introduction, you added pauses and purposeful hand movement. The two things you may want to work on, however, are unintentional body movement, which may give away that you are nervous. I believe this is indeed a work in progress, because indeed you have surpassed what you did in the previous speech. Also work on your stage presence. As much as we are virtual, this frame is our stage and we can use it to our advantage. To challenge yourself, mark your speaking area and try your best to incorporate it within your speech, such as when using elements like the power of three. With that said, well done, Tepo Itin Mahue. It's been an absolute pleasure to watch your progress at Toastmasters, and I believe we will still see much more. Please do carry on incorporating this feedback and moving or making progress on your personal development journey. Thank you. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you so much for that, Dumelo. And then I will go into the evaluation of our final speaker, and that was Hafiso, who was delivering a social speech. So, Hafiso, in terms of what I thought you did well, obviously you were giving an acceptance speech, and it was great that you were standing, accepting the speech that you were presenting in terms of the acceptance for the award that you got, Best Employee. And you told us a bit about the story of how you got to that particular point to be receiving such an award. So I think that was very well done. It came out really clear. And I loved the way you even ended it. It is a social speech where you're accepting an award, and you ended off with a way of saying thank you to the various people that had helped you. And it was very clear at the end of your speech that we needed to then applaud you because of the way you ended it. It's so I really enjoyed the speech that you presented. It almost felt like this is something you maybe already did at your own office before. But if you were practicing for accepting that award, I'm sure the speech will come off really, really well. I thought the speech was really well done. So in terms of one aspect that I picked up that maybe you may want to work on, I noticed obviously because we are on Zoom and we do use this particular background for our club background, but one has to be really careful because with you, it looked like it was swallowing up quite a lot of you in terms of as a person. So just be mindful of that. Sometimes it's even better to either use the blur or even just find a place with the plain background so that you completely remove the Zoom background so that you can be properly clear and visible. Other than that, well done in sharing with us your social speech of acceptance of your particular award. Just be mindful of the Zoom background, that it doesn't distract us then from what you're presenting. Other than that, looking forward to your future speeches. So with that being said, that is where we end with our feedback for the speeches this evening. I would now like to invite the other role players who have been exercising their listening skills to come and share with us their report. I'll first invite our R&R counter, Mpho, to please come to the virtual stage and give us the report. Mpho.
Thank you very much, Madam Evaluator, General Evaluator. I'll be giving you your report for the R counter. I'll start with our first speaker, which is Lame Mthethwa. She had 1 hour in her speech. And then I'll continue to Tsepo. She had 2. She used the saw and the in the speech. Then Ola Murinda, he had one counter. And then Barnabas Morake, he had 3. He used so twice and 1 time. And then we have Kariso Kilebeman, 4 counters. Then for our timer, Sami, used 4 counters. Then going on to the table topics, we have myself. I had 1 counter I used so. And then we have Barnabas. He has 1 counter. Then moving on to evaluations, Leah had 1 counter, and then Tulaganyo had 5 counter. That's all for today. Thank you so much. Back to you,
Thank
General
you.
Evaluator.
Thank you. All right. No, thank you so much, Paul, for that. And hopefully we were all listening and trying to see how we can reduce our filler words. I'd now like to invite our grammarian, Hilda, to please share with us her report in terms of how we use the English language today. Hilda?
Good evening once again, fellow Toastmasters. The grammar tonight was, the use of the language was perfect. I did not record any grammatical errors. And then the word of the day was propulsive, and the challenge for the presenters was to at least have it in their presentations. Mention the propulsive word 3 times in their presentations. And starting with presenter number 1, Lame did not use the word. Ola used it once. Barnabas used it thrice. Tepo did not use it. And Kagiso used the word once. Thank you, fellow Toastmasters.
Thank you so much for that. And at this point, I would like to invite our timer to please give us the timing for the evaluations and for the accounter and the grammarian. Timer. Sami?
Thank you, General Evaluator, Madam General Evaluator. This section for evaluators, the time range was 2 to 3 minutes. And the first evaluator, Leah, was well within range. Her time was 2 minutes, 13 seconds. Then the second evaluator, Tulaganyo, was well over the range, which is 4 minutes, 20 seconds. Then the third evaluator, Tsolofelo, was well over the range. It was 5 minutes, 20 seconds. And Dumelo was well within the range, which was 2 minutes, 59 seconds. And Leah, again, he was well within the range, which was 2 minutes, 11 seconds. And as for table topics, Dumelo was well within the range, which was 1 hour to 2 minutes. At 1 minute to 2 minutes, Dumelo this time was 1 minute, 30 seconds. And Mpo was within the range, which was 49 seconds. Kingsley was 1 minute, 20 seconds. Barnabas was 1 minute, 57 seconds. Thank you, General Evaluator. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Sami, for those timing guides. And at this point, I will then just share just a little bit in terms of the general evaluation. Because I see it's already 8 o'clock. So just to say that obviously planning such a meeting doesn't happen in a few days. It's something that happens before time. So we do have people who put up their names to present speeches at least a week in advance. And then that's when the process starts. So well done to our VPE for putting the agenda together. Maybe just to encourage our club members, putting the agenda together does take a lot of energy. So if you do put your name to present a speech, please make sure that indeed you honor that and you do come forth and present the speech on the date that you have requested it for. And I think maybe another item then that I will just highlight is during the evaluation session, this is for all evaluators today and moving forward, because it's clear our evaluators are really trying to give so much information back during the session. But just remember that everything in Toastmasters is timed. Evaluation session is between 2 to 3 minutes. So within that 2 to 3 minutes, you can just share pertinent information, as the rest of the information, you put it in your evaluation form that you will then share with the speaker if you have additional information, just so we make sure that we use the allotted time for us as per the agenda, and therefore we don't end up going over time. So just be mindful. An evaluation is a speech. It does get timed, and we're supposed to speak within the required time, 2 to 3 minutes. So let us work on ensuring that we do keep to that timing guide, the same way we try to do with the speeches or table topics as and whenever we come to the virtual stage. With that being said, I will then just share the results for the voting this evening. We voted for best effort speaker, and the results will just, okay. So the results, we didn't run a poll for table topics or evaluation. So in terms of our best effort speaker for the night, it was none other than Tsepo Mahoe. Well done, Tsepo, according to the votes for this evening. And it was a very, very tight vote, as we actually had two winners, and Kagiso Kilabamang. Well done. So it was both Tsepo and Kagiso who were voted as the best effort speaker of the night, with 80% of the vote being submitted. So well done. And then always we want to say thank you for Toastmasters who come to our meeting to assist us. So we had Umpo, who had taken over the role of our counter. Thank you so much for coming through and taking up a role with in our meeting this evening. With that being said, we are back next week, Tuesday, but it won't be online. It will be in person at Lidumang Dumani. It's just about 200 kilometers away from Pula Spa. So if you find yourself in the Gaborone area, 6 p.m. next week, we'll be meeting in person. And just so I want to remind also our Gaborone Toastmasters member, I think it will also share it in our group, that we are trying to re-register our club with the Register of Society. So next week when we come, we are just we need at least 20 people to be available at that meeting, and for you to bring a copy of your ID, just so our club can be re-registered with the Register of Society. Then that way we can participate in so many things under Toastmasters, like speech crafts that you can do to raise funds for the club and all sorts of things. So, but we need to make sure that we re-register as a society, but we'll also share it in the WhatsApp group. So we need at least 20 people to be at that meeting, not only to provide your ID, but to also just sign and register, because we're going to have the final part of our AGM where we just present the reports. So requesting, our club has 43 members, so I think 20 should be able to show up for the in-person meeting. That is my final notice for today. Want to say thank you so much for everybody who attended the meeting. Looking forward to seeing you next week. If you are a guest or new and want to know more about Toastmasters, or if you have questions, we'll remain on the call for a further 5 to 10 minutes so you can ask any questions that you might have. Apologies, because I'm just trying to look at the time to make sure we finish on we finish. I don't keep you more here. So please stick around if you do have questions, want to know how to join, or how much it costs, and we'll be able to answer those questions for you. With that being said, thank you once again and have yourselves a good night. You may please stop the recording. Thank you. And any guests who has a question, if you came here, okay, I can see quite a couple of guests here. Or
Where
maybe you
is
have a
the
comment,
physical
you have
meeting
feedback.
location?
It's
Yes, Leah.
Liduma Dumani in Lifeline Medical Clinic. I think we'll share in the group the location. It's just about 200 meters away from Pula Spa. That is where we meet. But we'll share the location link in WhatsApp.
All right, thanks.
Yes.